Chapter 12. Mental Cause and Cure. In order to understand the principles underlying suggestive therapeutics, we must consider the physiological causes of disease, or at least the first manifest physiological stage of disease. The best authorities now hold that disease is caused primarily by the failure of the cells to do their duty, or to repair their waste. Of course, it may be urged that there are mental causes behind this manifestation which operate in the direction of interfering with the activities or vigor of the cells. This we are prepared to admit, but even so it must be granted that in the above failure to function properly the cells manifest the first physiological stage of disease. This trouble may arise from the inefficiency or rebellion of a single cell, which then spreads its contagion to those around it, or else to a rebellion on the part of a group of cells, or from a failure of various groups of cells to coordinate and cooperate. There are certain actions among cell groups which so closely resemble a mutiny, or rebellion, that it is impossible to avoid using the figurative term in describing them. Each individual cell is a tiny life, having its various functions and activities, its mental as well as its physical side. Cells show varying degrees of what may well be called intelligence, suggestion and autosuggestion. They have their memories, and profit by experience. They cooperate with other cells and often seemingly have civil war among themselves. Any failure on the part of the cells, or cell groups to do their work, results in the symptoms which we call disease. According to the size and location of the cell disturbance does the disease become local or general. The disease is cured, either when the rebellious cells are forced to resume normal functioning, or else when they have been discarded and destroyed and replaced by new healthy normal cells which perform the tasks which their predecessors have abandoned. Therefore, any method or means which operates in the direction of restoring normal function to the cells, in the direction of stimulating, regulating, or removing obstacles, tends to produce what it called a cure. And to this end nature is constantly directing her efforts. And nature is helped by the proper mental attitudes, or retarded by improper ones. Faith and confident expectation are wonderful aids to nature in this work, while fear and apprehension are obstacles and detriments. Recent discoveries have confirmed the views of the thinkers of a few years back who identified the mind in the cells, with a portion of that wonderful region of the mind called the subconscious. Each cell has mind in it, and belonging to it, but the various minds of the cells have mental filaments connecting with each other, and all connecting with the entire subconscious region of the mind. Therefore anything affecting the subconscious mind must of necessity affect the cells themselves, in varying degrees. Through the subconscious mind, and the sympathetic nervous system, are worked many important physiological changes. The concentration of attention upon any part of the body is known to affect the circulation of that part, and every student of suggestive therapeutics is aware that the concentration of the patient's thought upon any organ coupled with the idea of that organ being diseased is very apt to be followed by symptoms of imperfect functioning in the mental cause and cure organ in question. Likewise the concentration of the attention upon an organ or part, with the idea that the organ has been invigorated and stimulated to proper and normal functioning, is very apt to be followed by results in accordance with the idea. To endeavor to explain just why this is so, would take us into the realm of theory, in which our own views would probably conflict with those of other thinkers upon the subject. More important than any theories are the known facts, in the case the facts stated above. Physiologists interested in suggestive therapeutics endeavor to take the subject away from the region of mental science, and seek to find the explanation in the direction of the circulation by the attention, thereby building up the affected parts. Some speak, also, of the increased flow of nervous energy to the affected part, by reason of the concentrated attention, and the expectancy. Along these lines, Drive Eastman says, our question is, can those physical conditions of the brain affect the physical condition of the stomach? We know that the brain condition which accompanies the idea of the raising our hand can affect the condition of the muscles of our arm, and we call that a voluntary function. Now the question is whether the brain condition which accompanies the idea of enlivening our stomach can have any effect upon that involuntary function. Experiments with suggestion have proved that in some cases it can, if it continues long enough. Persons of a very suggestible nature can, for instance, by concentrating their mind upon a certain part of the body, increase the flow of blood to that part, although the regulation of blood flow is supposed to be entirely involuntary. The action of the heart, also the movements of the digestive organs particularly, and of the organs of elimination, are almost directly affected in suggestible persons by that change in their brains which accompanies certain ideas. Science has established, then, that suggestion can affect to some extent, the so-called involuntary functions of the body, but the extent or limitation of these effects is by no means determined. Suggestion and autosuggestion could not be determined scientifically without years of diligent experiment and tabulation. Any dogmatic statement upon one side or the other of that question is therefore premature and against the spirit of science. Along these same general lines, many writers on suggestive therapeutics have proceeded from the fundamental position that the healing effects result from the increased circulation and nerve currents, directed to the affected parts by the unconscious volition of the patient, which is aroused and directed by means of the suggestions given him. In this way the weakened digestive apparatus receives an additional amount of nervous force, and an increased circulation, both of which, as all physiologists admit, will tend to stimulate and invigorate the particular part, and be conducive to a resumption of normal functioning. That the circulation may be so directed is unquestioned. It is an axiom of suggestive therapeutics that, the circulation follows the attention, and increased circulation means increased nourishment and building material. If the increased circulation be accompanied by increased stimulation by nerve currents, then it must be seen that an improved condition of the part or organ must result. Whether we accept this explanation as the last word in suggestive therapeutics, or whether we regard it as merely the statement of effects resulting from higher causes, we must admit that the circulation may be directed by the attention, and that stimulation must result from the increased circulation. The experiments of the psychological laboratories have shown us conclusively that the circulation may be increased in a hand or foot by simple suggestion. Personally, we have conducted experiments in which by suggestion the blood was increased in one hand and decreased in the other, at the same time one hand assuming a dark red color, while the other appeared pallid. This result, of course, arose from the unconscious volition of the patient, directed by the suggestions given and accepted by him. Results far more startling are common to all experimenters. Mental cause and cure. Along these lines. This being so, we can see the strength of the argument of those who claim that by this increased circulation in the affected part, accompanied by an increased stimulation by nerve currents directed in the same way, and at the same time, the cures of suggestive therapeutics may be explained. Personally, we think that the above theory or explanation is merely a half-truth. While freely admitting that increased circulation and nerve force is present in the cure, we think that there is still more to the process. Realizing the presence of mind in every cell, cell group, and part of the body, we think that these cell minds are acted upon by the central mind, just as the subconscious central mind is acted upon by the suggestions from outside. In other words, we believe that the central mind superimposes upon the cell minds the suggestions given and accepted by it and thus produces activities in accordance therewith. To use a clumsy illustration, let us suppose a still body of water in which the sun is shining. There is but one reflection of the sun. Let something stir the body of water so that a portion of it is sprayed into the air as 1,000 drops, and in each drop we find the reflection duplicated. In the same way, the one suggestion accepted by the subconscious mind is apparently multiplied and reproduced in each cell of the body. In this way we believe that there is a direct mental influence upon the cells, independent of the benefit of the increased circulation and nerve currents. In fact, it may be possible that the increased circulation and nerve force is directed toward the part because the cells demand it by reason of the activity aroused within them. In some forms of mental treatment there appears to be a short circuit established directly between the mind of the suggester and the minds in the cells. In such cases the suggestions are directed to the affected parts, in a peculiar manner which shall be described in a later chapter. Some claim that this is but a masked form of plain suggestion, but we have seen results obtained by this method which seem to render suggestion and autosuggestion possible, or probable, the existence of some direct connection or short circuit, such as we have described. We shall not argue this point, for theories make but little difference in the practical work. We shall now proceed to a consideration of the several best methods for applying suggestive therapeutics. By applying these methods you will be able to secure results from which you may deduce your own theories, or adopt those which seem to best fit the facts of the case. Long experience has caused us to regard any and all theories as but working hypotheses, to be applied in action. The final theory is probably still a long way off. Chapter 13. Therapeutic Suggestion. The methods of application of suggestive therapeutics are as numerous as the many practitioners, for nearly every practitioner employs a method or methods of his own, based upon what he has learned and modified by his own experience. Each practitioner has some favorite method which is generally a modification of that of his teacher or teachers, the modification being determined by the result of his own experience, his temperament, his general philosophy of cure, and his previous training. But the underlying principle is the same. The practitioner who has received the regular medical training is very apt to mold his suggestions along the lines of his previous practice, with a tendency toward placebos or harmless preparations with which the suggestions are mingled. The giving of a number of small pellets accompanied with the suggestion that they will produce certain effects is a very effective form of suggestion, particularly if the patient has been accustomed to drugs and inoculated with a belief in the wonderful potencies of strange decoctions. In the same way a flavored fluid, taken at intervals of a half hour, with the suggestion that certain results will follow, is a strong medium of suggestion. Some practitioners give electrical treatments. Suggestion and autosuggestion accompanied with strong suggestions that certain physical changes will occur and they get results. Others employ manipulations, rubbings, and similar methods, accompanied with strong suggestion. In fact, the suggestive accompaniment may be, and is, employed to advantage in almost every form of treatment. The knowledge of the potency of suggestion gives the physician the key to the effect of many remedies which some physicians use with excellent results, while others find valueless. A drug, plus suggestion, is an entirely different thing from the same drug, minus suggestion. It is very difficult to determine the exact therapeutic value of any remedy, unless the element of suggestion in its application be carefully weighed and considered. If the practitioner happens to belong to any of the various metaphysical or new thought cults or schools, he will naturally model his suggestions along the lines of his belief. He will urge upon the patient certain teachings of his school, and if the patient be impressed by his earnestness and belief, an excellent therapeutic effect is obtained. This idea, however, is vigorously opposed by many of the metaphysical practitioners, who hold that the healing is a suggestion and autosuggestion accompanied with strong suggestions that certain physical changes will occur and they get results. Others employ manipulations, rubbings, and similar methods, accompanied with strong suggestion. In fact, the suggestive accompaniment may be, and is, employed to advantage in almost every form of treatment. The knowledge of the potency of suggestion gives the physician the key to the effect of many remedies which some physicians use with excellent results, while others find valueless. A drug, plus suggestion, is an entirely different thing from the same drug, minus suggestion. It is very difficult to determine the exact therapeutic value of any remedy, unless the element of suggestion in its application be carefully weighed and considered. If the practitioner happens to belong to any of the various metaphysical or new thought cults or schools, he will naturally model his suggestions along the lines of his belief. He will urge upon the patient certain teachings of his school, and if the patient be impressed by his earnestness and belief, an excellent therapeutic effect is obtained. This idea, however, is vigorously opposed by many of the metaphysical practitioners, who hold that the healing is accomplished by reason of the virtue of their various dogmas, beliefs, and formulas, the proof of the same being apparently established by the number of cures obtained by them. Our beliefs, dogmas, or theories must be so, they say, else how could we obtain these wonderful cures? This would be all very well, were it not for the fact that some other healer, with dogmas diametrically opposed to those of the first one, obtains cures of precisely the same nature, and in about the same percentage. The unprejudiced investigator is compelled to believe that the cures result, not from any special virtue residing in the several forms of metaphysical belief or theory, but simply because the patient's faith and expectant attention is aroused by the practitioner, and an unconscious arousing and directing of his own mental energy is obtained by reason thereof. Therapeutic suggestion. Anything that serves to inspire confidence and faith in the patient, also serves to turn his mental forces to the affected part in the direction of a stimulating influence and corresponding improvement. The healing force is inherent in the mind of the patient himself. All the healer can do is to direct it to advantage. Some forms of metaphysical healing are better adapted to certain patients than are others, but other patients must seek other forms best adapted to their temperament, prejudices and training. This fact is known to, and accepted by advanced students of scientific suggestion, although disputed by the advocates of the many schools and cults. It is a very simple thing when it is considered in the light of reason. Schools A, B and C have dogmas, doctrines, and formulas diametrically opposed to each other. If one be right, the others must be wrong. And if the healing is dependent upon the virtues of the belief, theory, or formulas, then it would follow that none but the true school could obtain results. But what are the facts of the case? It is admitted by all scientific investigators, that all of the three will obtain the same kind of cures, in the same percentages, providing the practitioners are equally adapted for the work, and suited to the temperament of the patients. No one who has ever studied the subject will deny that. Yogi obtained many wonderful cures, but who would think of ascribing them to any special virtue in his methods or dogmas? Outside of his band of followers his claims are seen to be ridiculous. Yet he made his cures. Why? Because he obtained a suggestive effect by reason of the belief, confidence, and expectant attention he aroused in his followers. Students of suggestion who attended many of Yogi's healing meetings saw the most active employment of suggestion in every process of the healing. Of course Yogi denied this, and abused those who so held. He claimed that he was inspired by God, and that God did the healing through him. Suggestion, he held, was the work of the devil, and was but an imitation of the true method, just as the Egyptian magicians produced snakes in imitation of suggestion and autosuggestion. Those produced by Moses. He claimed that just as Moses' snake swallowed the others, so would Zion swallow the imitators. But it didn't. In the same way the various leaders, teachers, and practitioners of the various cults, each claim that their way is the truth, and that all others are base imitations. They are often forced to admit the cures of the rival healers, but they have the habit of saying, "Oh, well, they may seem to cure, but their cures won't last, ours alone will be permanent," or, "Others may cure, but we alone heal." In short, they claim to have the only real article, all the others are imitators. They are like the Bowery second-hand clothes dealer, who put up the sign, "Don't go to my imitators to be cheated, come to me." But gradually the public is beginning to awaken to the truth that the real healing power resides within the patient himself, and that any method that serves to arouse that inherent power will tend toward the cure. The method that is capable of arousing that power to the greatest degree, is the best method for that particular patient. When this fact is recognized, it will be seen that each and every school and cult has its particular place, and reaches certain people as no other form could do. The recognition of this fact should disarm the conflicting factions and cults, and cause them to see good in each other. There is need for a greater tolerance, broadness, and charity in the various cults. To give you an idea of how some of the metaphysical cults employ mask suggestion in their healing work, We shall quote several of their treatments. The student, who has grasped the underlying principle, should have no trouble in discovering the seed of suggestion in these treatments. These treatments are but the capsule, or sugar-coated pellet, in which the remedy is concealed. But remember this, always, that many people need the capsule, and the sugar coating they would refuse to accept straight, undisguised, and undiluted suggestion if it were offered to them. Therapeutic suggestion. The following treatment for nervousness is followed by a certain cult: I am warmed and fed and clothed and healed by divine love. This the patient is instructed to repeat over and over many times during the day. Surely it is calculated to produce a restful and peaceful feeling in one of a strong religious temperament. Another treatment for sore feet, used by the same cult, is as follows: my feet can never be weary nor sore. God created my feet perfect. I walk the pathway of life in perfect ease and comfort. All the obstacles in my path have vanished, and my feet are bathed in a sea of pure love. The patient with the sore feet is instructed to mentally place yourself in an attitude to realize the power of the words you utter, for the fullness of peace and harmony in your feet comes with realization. The more frequently this spiritual medicine is used, the sooner comes manifestation of perfect health. Surely a soothing, restful suggestion, and please note the repetition. The following healing affirmation was used by a certain cult. At its regular meetings, the congregation repeating the words after the leader, with reverent recognition of my birthright, I claim my sonship with the Almighty. I am free from disease and disorder. I am in harmony with my source. The infinite health is made manifest in me. The infinite substance is my constant supply. The infinite life fills and strengthens me. The infinite intelligence illumines and directs me. The infinite love surrounds and protects me. The infinite power upholds and supports me. I am out of bondage. I have the freedom of the sons of God. With all that is in me, I rejoice and give thanks. God and men are the all in all, now and evermore. It may be seen that the above affirmation, made slowly and solemnly, accompanied by the religious environment, is calculated to bring relief, mental and physical. But still it is suggestion. The following treatment has been used for constipation and delayed menstruation by one of the cults. All the natural channels of my body are open and free. The substance of my body is good. The following treatment for general health is suggestion and autosuggestion. Used by one of the cults. What is true of God is true of man. God is the one all, and is always in a state of wholeness. I, the man of God, am always whole, like unto the one all. No false belief environs or limits me. No shadow darkens my mental vision. My body is a heavenly body, and my eyes do behold the glory of God in all visible things. I am well, and provided for, thank God, and nothing can make me think otherwise. The student of suggestion recognizes and acknowledges the effect of similar suggestions upon those whose temperament inclines them toward this form of treatment. The fact of the cure is understood and admitted, while the theory is also understood. The Emmanuel movement uses similar treatments, but unlike the cults and metaphysical schools, or many of them, it freely admits the nature of the force used. It acknowledges suggestion, instead of denying it. It says, practically, the healing power is inherent in the patient, suggestion is the method of employing that power, and our treatments are among the better ways of arousing that power. Other cults and schools pursue the radical method of instructing the patient to deny absolutely the existence of the disease, pain, or disorder. The theory is that as God is good, and as all things come from God, therefore anything that is not good cannot come from God, and therefore must be a false belief or illusion. The treatment consists in denying away or repudiating the false belief, error or claim of the mortal mind. Without entering into a discussion of the metaphysical, or theological points mentioned, the student of suggestion sees that these denials of the trouble, and the affirmations of health and wholeness, must exert a mighty suggestive effect upon the patient who believes. Fear is removed, and hope takes its place. These treatments have a well-recognized value in the category of suggestion, in spite of the theories and dogmatic conceptions of the cults and schools employing them. The student of suggestion perceives, very soon, that anything that tends to produce a hopeful, optimistic mental, therapeutic suggestion attitude, in place of the mental state of fear, pessimism, and despair, has a decided therapeutic value along the lines of suggestion. Fear is a negative mental state and is recognized as a powerful depressant of the physical activities. Hope is most positive, and is a mighty invigorant of the physical activities. Confident expectation is a mental state most conducive to a manifestation of the desired and hoped for physical condition. Any system of materia medica, metaphysics, or religion, which is able to let in the sunshine of hope, optimism, and confident expectation of good, and which thus drives out the darkness of fear, pessimism, and confident expectation of evil, has an important place in the category of suggestive therapeutics, no matter under what name it may masquerade, or upon what theories, beliefs, dogmas, or ideas it may rest. Its pragmatic value is determined by what does it do, how does it work, how does it make good in action. Suggestion and autosuggestion. Chapter 14. Suggestive treatments. In contrast with the practitioners of suggestive therapeutics who give their suggestions under the forms and by the methods of the various metaphysical cults on the one hand, and those who give mask suggestions in the shape of placebos, harmless drugs, etc., on the other hand, there is to be found a large and constantly increasing number of practitioners who confine themselves to the practice of suggestive therapeutics, pure and simple. While the various methods of applying suggestion varies according to the respective views of the practitioner, still there is to be found a general underlying basis of application in all of such cases. We shall now ask you to consider the general method of suggestive treatment followed by this school of healing. In the first place, the practitioner of suggestive therapeutics, pure and simple, does not attempt to deny the existence of the disease or disorder. Nor does he claim that the cure is due to any power or metaphysical belief. On the contrary, he bases his treatment upon the recognized laws of psychology and physiology. He first endeavors to diagnose the cause of the trouble, not the symptoms, but the cause. This step being accomplished, he then endeavors to gain the confidence of the suggestion and autosuggestion patient by a careful talk, then directs his suggestions in such a way to bring about a return of normal functioning of the cells, organs, and parts of the patient. In order to do this, he forms the mental image of the healthy individual, and endeavors to bring up the patient to that ideal. Instead of studying diseased conditions, he studies the conditions of normal health and then tries to bring up the patient to that standard by an appropriate line of suggestion. This process is not so intricate as it might appear at first thought, for, as a rule, the abnormal condition has been caused by a neglect of some of the rules and laws of normal living and thinking. A correction of these bad habits of living and thinking may be brought about by firm and repeated suggestions that the patient will act and think otherwise. In the majority of cases seeking suggestive treatment, there will be found a chronic condition of imperfect nutrition, digestion, assimilation, and elimination. This condition manifests itself in a poor circulation, weak digestion, nervousness, constipation, and general run-down state of health. These cases are called typical cases requiring this form of treatment. The patient as a rule has a weak stomach, cold hands and feet, poor circulation, nervousness, and is more or less constipated. If the patient is a woman, she is also apt to have menstrual troubles. In order to relieve this condition, the practitioner aims his suggestion directly towards starting correct habits of living, and in this way strikes right at the heart of the original cause of the trouble. Perhaps the best way to explain this to you would be to give you a general outline of the treatment of a typical case of this kind, by a practitioner of suggestive therapeutics. The treatment commences with a careful examination of the patient's condition, the securing of the history of the case, general symptoms, etc. This done, the practitioner tells the patient that he must not dwell upon the past history, nor upon the symptoms he has come to a parting of the ways, and must forget the old troubles and leave them behind him. He suggestive treatments then informs the patient that he must allow the suggestions to sink into his subconscious mind, there to take root and then manifest in physical conditions. Bidding the patient to assume a position of restful calm, he begins to give him suggestions, in a firm, quiet, but positive tone, with frequent repetitions of the vital points. The following will give a general idea of such a treatment. You are now resting, quietly and calmly, with a mind open to the inflow of strong, helpful suggestions, which will build you up gradually and surely into a condition of health. These suggestions will bring to your bodily cells and organs a normal healthy condition, in which they will be able to do the work that nature intended them to do, and they will do it. In the first place, we shall cause your stomach to act properly and digest the food that you place in it to nourish the body, and which shall be assimilated and distributed in the shape of rich good blood to every part of your body there, to do its work of building you up to strong vigorous health. You have cast aside all fear, and from now on will look forward confidently and expectantly toward the return of health. You will find that your appetite for nourishing food is returning. You will find that a normal healthy hunger will return to you, beginning from this minute. You will begin to crave nourishing food, and such food will be well taken care of by your digestive organs. You will masticate your food thoroughly and slowly, thus gaining every particle of nourishment from it, and rendering it easily digested. You will masticate your food thoroughly from now on. Your saliva will prepare your food for your stomach, therefore you will masticate thoroughly each mouthful of food that you eat hereafter. Each mouthful will be well masticated hereafter. Thus will you prepare it for the action of the gastric juices, which will flow freely in your stomach, from now on, and which will thoroughly digest every particle of the good nourishing food for which you are beginning to hunger already. Your stomach is suggestion and auto-suggestion. Strong, and able to take care of the good nourishing food that you shall give it hereafter, because you will be hungry for it. The stomach will digest this food thoroughly, and the nourishment therefrom will be thoroughly assimilated and converted into rich red good blood, which will be carried to all parts of your body, there to build you up, to health and strength. The body is built up from the nourishment obtained from good healthy food, for which you now feel hungry, and which you will digest easily. From today you will find yourself eating and digesting like the normal healthy person, for you are that normal healthy person, from now on. You will increase in health and strength every day, from now on. You will drink a sufficient quantity of fluids each day, for nature requires these fluids in order to provide the various liquids of the system, the blood, the gastric juices, and the bile. All these things mean that you must increase your fluids. You will increase your fluids until you will drink nearly 2 quarts of water during each 24 hours. This is the normal amount for the healthy man or woman, and you will soon learn to want this quantity. You will also begin to breathe fully, drawing in a few deep breaths every few hours. The air provides oxygen which invigorates and purifies your blood as it passes through your lungs. You will find that this deep breathing will make you feel strong and vigorous. You will find that you will begin to take a new interest in life, and will want to walk in the fresh air as nature intended you to do. You will find that the increased fluids will tend to restore a normal movement of the bowels, and from now on you will be regular and natural in this respect. Your nerves will grow strong, and you will feel young and vigorous, and full of life. In short, from now on, you will begin to grow steadily and surely to be a healthy human being, such as nature intended you to be. This is your birthright, and you are now going to claim your own. Health is the natural state, and you are going to be natural from suggestive treatments. Now on, you will throw aside all worry and fear, and from now on will become a healthy, cheerful, bright, and happy person. In the case of a woman patient, the suggestions also include normal functioning of the organs peculiar to the sex. In case of any special troubles, appropriate suggestions are also given, but in all cases the fundamental suggestions are included, for upon the restoration of natural normal functioning of the entire body depends perfect health, no matter what may be the special complaint. In reading the above typical treatment, the reader will be struck with the fact that these suggestions are all directed toward the conditions which are desired, rather than toward the eradication of the undesirable ones. This is in accordance with the fundamental principles of the new psychology, which hold that negative conditions are best eradicated by the cultivation of the positive ones. Health is positive, disease negative. In building up the positive, the negative disappears. Disease is not a thing, it is merely the negation of health. Disease is like darkness, while health is like light. Turn on the light and the darkness has disappeared. This is the one great distinguishing feature of suggestive therapeutics. It looks toward the healthy condition, rather than upon the diseased ones. By keeping its eyes and thought fixed on the positive conditions, it tends to dissipate the negatives. The practitioner of suggestive therapeutics studies the healthy man, rather than the diseased one. His mind is ever filled with the thoughts of health, and he endeavors to set up a corresponding mental image in the minds of his patients. He steadily refuses to even talk disease. His talk is ever along the lines of health. The normal attracts him, not the abnormal. This in itself is a great step in advance in practice of any and all healing methods, and will undoubtedly be the mental attitude of practitioners of every school in the future. It is impossible, of course, to give detailed instructions for treatment in a book of this kind, for such would be foreign to suggestion and autosuggestion. Its general purpose. But, nevertheless, we have given you here the fundamentals of the best general treatment along the lines of suggestive therapeutics. You may alter, add, change, or modify them to meet the requirements of a variety of cases. The main point to be remembered is that confidence begets power, and that your suggestions should always be directed along the exact lines of physical change that you desire to produce. When you wish a boy to sit down, you bid him do so. Follow the same plan in talking to the bodily organs, cells, or parts. In this connection, read the next chapter.